Hey class, so this lecture is going to be talking about how do we group and classify and name organisms. So that part of biology is called taxonomy. A taxonomy is the grouping and naming of organisms. This current idea of taxonomy that we're using, so what I'm going to show you through the rest of this lecture, this was developed by a person named Linnaeus. And Linnaeus was living in the 1700s. So it's been a few hundred years since Linnaeus developed this. And what I'm going to show you is kind of a normal systematic way of putting things in the categories. It's called the taxonomic hierarchy. So there's this hierarchy of categories that we use, and we can put organisms into those categories to kind of keep straight their relationship with other organisms and how we're going to name them. All right, so our taxonomic hierarchy is going to have 8 categories. We're going to start with what's going to be the broadest category, so the most inclusive, right? So the domain, we talked about domains in the last video, right? There are 3 domains, so everything that's alive on our planet goes into one of 3 domains. So these are big, right? These have lots of things. So these are more inclusive. And then as we go down the list here, we're becoming less and less inclusive, right? So it's kind of like, here's a domain, and then when we go to number 2, we're looking at 1/4 of this domain. And then when we go to number 3, we're looking at a little piece of 1/4 of that domain. So we're just like going to take pieces of this as we go down. So domain's the first level in our hierarchy. The second level is called kingdom. So there's 3 domains. The number of kingdoms depends on who you talk to. When I was going through this a million years ago, we didn't have domains. That was not a level on our hierarchy. We started with kingdom, and there were 4 or 5 depending on who taught it. So domain kind of took the place of kingdom, and then now with kingdom, there could still be those 4 or 5 like what I learned, or sometimes people take protists and put them into lots of different kingdoms. There could be 20 of these things. But the idea is there's more than there are domains, right? Like these things are going to increase as to how many of them we have. So domains are made of kingdoms, and then a kingdom is going to be broken down into what's called a phylum. And if this has an A, it's plural. So kingdom is broken down into at least one phylum. If it's multiple, many phyla. A phylum's broken down into classes. So domain, kingdom, phylum, class. 5 is order. 6 is family. 7 is genus. And then 8 is species. So that's our taxonomic hierarchy. That's our breakdown from most inclusive to more specific. All right, so we're becoming less and less inclusive as we come down. When we get to the species level at number 8, typically we're talking about one specific kind of living thing and just one thing. Right up in the domain, we could be talking about millions of things in the domain, but just one when we get to species. All right, so that's our taxonomic hierarchy. So again, think of this as sort of do both ways. So think that a domain is made of kingdoms, and then all right, sorry if that had a weird like pause and stop there. Actually waiting for something to get delivered, and I got a phone call that they were bringing it, so I apologize for that, but hopefully it's reasonably seamless on the video. All right, so I was saying, think of this from both directions. So think that domains have kingdoms, kingdoms have phyla, phyla has classes, classes have orders, orders have families, family has genera, genera have species. And then also think from the bottom up. So think that if you have a lot of species, that makes up a genus. And if you have several genera, that makes up a family. And if you have several families, that makes up an order. So do it from both directions when you study this. And then one thing I want to show you, one last thing with this, and I'm going to show you a picture. In today's taxonomy, we have a name that we refer to as a binomial. And that name is the genus and species in our hierarchy. So the term binomial means to name. So the two names that we have are the genus followed by the species. So for example, we probably all have heard this, Homo sapiens, right? That's a binomial. That's the binomial for humans, right? It's the scientific name. That's really what we're looking at here. The binomial represents the scientific name, right? So with that scientific name, we have two parts, the genus and the species. And again, that's the last two things on our hierarchy that we're looking at. All right, and then I wanted to show you this picture from the text. This has a classification. I blew this up so we can read it easier, and it made it kind of blurry. But this is a classification for a dog, right? Just domesticated, regular old family dog. And this kind of, I don't necessarily care about the names on this, but the example of more to less inclusive. So our domain is down here, right? Dogs are animals, which are in the domain eukarya. So look at everything that's in the domain eukarya. There's all different animals. There's plants. There's, they didn't picture it, but remember there's fungi, there's protist. And then we throw out anything that's not an animal. And we have the kingdom Animalia, so all the animals. Still talking millions and millions of things. And then we just keep breaking that down, right? Kingdom to phylum, phylum to class, class to order. We keep breaking it down until we get to a specific scientific name. Now, the one thing that's a little different on this picture versus what I showed you with our list, they have this subspecies category here. And we're not going to do this with that much detail. So if you look at this picture, I would just ignore that and just stop at the species level. And also I would just kind of not have the wolf there. So anyway, all that stuff doesn't matter. The bottom line is it's just an example to show you this breakdown of lots of stuff down here, fewer, 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 until we get to one thing at the top of this picture, which is the bottom of our list down here. All right, so there's going to be an assignment that I'm going to ask you to do some of this taxonomic hierarchy with some examples you want to look up. So you'll get some experience looking at this classification.